I'm here with my friends and colleagues, Lynn and Amy, and we are talking about just going through these seasons of change. It's a huge drop off, back to school, new job kind of season as we're recording this right now. But this is a topic that is pertinent any moment in your life. And I didn't realize how deep this was going to go. Because I thought we were just going to talk about tips for college drop off.
Yeah.
But it's like or back to school anxiety. And now I'm like, I never went home after I went to college, stirring up all this shit about not living close to my parents, and I miss them. And you just asked me, would I handle it differently? First, I have a confession. I secretly hope Kendall doesn't end up in LA. And I notice I'm a bit of an asshole. And anytime she does any kind of griping about the LA scene, I'm like, yeah, you really are just like an East Coast person. And I realize that I am doing this because I desperately want her to move back to the East Coast.
You're allowed to do that, I think.
And
That's
she
okay.
was saying that, when her friends said goodbye this weekend, they were here for her birthday and a bunch of them were moving to New York. She got really sad and was like, I wish I was going to be in New York with all of them. And I'm like, eventually you will. You could live in LA for a year and then, move back.
Yeah.
So I'm being an asshole because I'm starting to plant that stuff. So I got to stop doing that. I could absolutely have a ball moving her in. I would get very teary when I said goodbye.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because instead of holding the confidence that this is going to be one of the best years of your life and you're about to do the thing that you've been wanting to do forever, and I can't wait to see what you produce this year in terms of your music career, I think about like all the shit that impacts me. God, I'm getting older. Wow, these kids are, sprouting their wings.
Yeah.
Wow, like time's flying. Holy cow. How did this, I start going there and get very self-reflective, and I'm going to use what we've talked about today to stay in the space because I have a choice. I don't have to torture myself. I don't have to make everything so deep. That's what Kendall always says to me. Not everything's that deep, Mom. Just because you're moving me into an apartment doesn't mean you need to get that deep.
Yeah.
You could just stand in confidence and go get them.
Yeah.
Good luck paying your bills because this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. And I think what you both have said about sort of flip the switch, know your role in that moment.
Yeah.
Don't let it get too deep. Be confident about what's about to happen for them and exude it so that they can borrow it from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That fucking helps me. Thank you. Does anything else come up for you guys in terms of those moments? And then I'm going to share one story quickly that is super important that I think everyone will get a lot of value out of.
I had something come up, but I totally forgot what it was.
Yeah, I just think that, what you just said is great. And you might get emotional, but that's okay. You can get emotional with them and tell them you've got this, this is what you want, and really ask them questions, because maybe she does want to go to New York, but maybe she doesn't, right? And
she does. She talks about
she does want to go.
Come on.
But awesome. I think it's that would be music to your ears if she wanted to change her mind, but you don't want her to give up on her dream either. So it's really being the voice to ask those probing questions, even when we might want something, and it's really up to us to say, well, what would your path look like? And just make sure that they are making the decision not to please us, because I could get really comfortable with that. I could totally lead that.
You're okay
right?
with causing that much guilt trip for people, right?
I could. But would I be serving my kids and their futures? No, I wouldn't. So,
you know what else this makes me think of is those phone calls I got from our daughters when they were first at school, sitting alone, crying. And I'll tell you what really helped is this idea of narrowing their focus. Acknowledge that it's hard. Say you're not the only one, but you got to narrow their focus. Let me tell you what I mean by that. My friend Carrie Lorenz, who's the first female F-14 fighter pilot, wrote a book called Span of Control. And in an emergency situation, there are only 3 dials that matter in a fighter jet. That's it. And you got to narrow your focus so that you can gain control. And so if you are going to get that teary phone call, I don't think I can do this. Somebody's crying from the bathroom stall at a new job. Or, after a big sports practice at a new team that one of your kids has made, they're like really upset. I don't think I can narrow their focus. What can you do in the next hour? What can you do in the next hour? What could you focus on? Because part of what happens, I think, in these moments of change, whether you're at a new job or you're sitting in your dorm room alone, is you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm in a new neighborhood. What do I do? I feel like a dork. I feel like the only one. I don't know anybody at work. I don't know what people are talking about. You have to get out of your office. You have to get out of your cubicle. You have to get out of your room, and you have to force yourself to start walking around and talking to people. That'll make you feel better. It's the same thing when we moved here. Like, I wasn't going to meet anybody if I sat in my house and cried. I had to get to the coffee shop. I had to push myself out of that freeze mode and through my discomfort and keep reminding myself, Mel, this feeling is normal. You're going through a big change. It's going to pass, but bitch, you got to do something about it. Like, you want friends, you get your butt out there. And the same is true with you, and the same is true with the people you love. Another thing that's really helpful is that if somebody is overwhelmed by going through change, a lot of times the response to it is to freeze. As you've been learning in a lot of episodes, freezing and procrastinating is a kind of anxiety or even a trauma response to something very overwhelming. And change is always overwhelming. It's just part of the duality of it. We were learning this today. Is coach the people in your life to put some things in their calendar. Take a look at what's going on this week. What could you plan to do? Who could you reach out to that you've met in the DMs and set up a lunch? Who could you ask to go to the cafeteria with you? Those sort of breadcrumbing of dates with people or things to do or sign up for this event so that when you look at your calendar, you see forward motion. Yeah. I got a call from a gal that I consider to be like one of my daughters. You know who you are. And she had pulled over on the side of a road and was calling me because she was having a panic attack. And I asked her, okay, well, first of all, tell me, what do you see around you? So I used that grounding technique where you go, tell me one thing that you can see. Tell me, something that you can hear right now. And then we started breathing together, and I told her to put her hand on her heart. And so we helped her drop into the moment and really ground into her body. And the dogs are barking right now. It's okay. We're going to just keep on rolling because this is one of those hot on the mic kind of episodes. We started talking, and she was explaining all the stuff that was going on. She had just graduated. The job that she was starting had been delayed. The family has just moved. Mom has a big job. Her grandfather's sick. And what I said to her was this. I said, the fact that you're upset and kind of panicking right now tells me that you're mentally healthy. Because anybody going through this level of change and that much transition, you should feel completely turned around. And so the fact that this is bothering you tells me you're well.
Yeah.
And I also want to remind you that it's temporary. And the most important thing that you could do is to remind yourself this is temporary. The fact that I'm bothered by all of this change and I'm upset about it and I feel out of sorts is a sign that I'm doing well. Because I should feel out of sorts. I'm in a new environment. There's a lot of change going on. And the same is true when you move back to school or you start a new grade or you start that new job. It's a sign that you're mentally well if you're turned upside down because everything is new. And your body needs time to process the new environment and the new rhythm and the new people around you and the new space that you're living or working in and the new commute and the new everything. And it's really a good sign that even though you're excited, you're nervous and you feel activated. That's because there's so much new stuff for you to learn and absorb right now. And so if you can remind yourself that it's temporary, and if you can take a deep breath and tell yourself that the fact that I'm upset about this change doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. It just means I'm going through change. This is my process. And I want to personally say to you two, thank you, because when I am not dropping off Kendall, but metaphorically, I'm going to think when I say goodbye to her on Sunday night and she and Chris drive down, I'm going to put my hands on her beautiful cheeks and I'm going to look her straight in the eye and I'm going to say, I know that this is going to be hard, but it's only going to be hard for a little bit. And I believe in you. And remember, this is how you do change. It sucks for 2 weeks. Just get into a good rhythm. And before you know it, you're going to be better than you ever imagined. I love you. Go get them. And then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to pull my shoulders back and I'm going to stomp away from her like I meant it, because I do. And as soon as I turn the corner, I will collapse and hug one of the dogs and start crying because she's leaving.
Sounds right. That sounds right.
And that's how we do change here on the Mel Robbins podcast.
That's right.
I love it.
Like some fucking powerful bitches.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Fantastic.
My biggest takeaway today is just this idea of being a surrogate of confidence for somebody else. Just because somebody that you love is upset, you don't have to cry with them. In fact, it's better if you just acknowledge that this is hard and then say, now pull up your big girl panties and get your ass out there and go make some friends. I really want to talk to you about transitions. And we are in a moment of time when this episode's going to come out where there's tons of people graduating. And that's a major transition. And I am personally bracing. Dr. Marquez, I'm bracing. Our daughter is graduating from college.
Oh my God.
I can feel the panic attack happening. Graduation is in 10 days.
Wow.
She is then going to leave California and come home for the summer.
Wow.
And she is an artist, a singer-songwriter, so there's no defined career path.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the bottom is going to drop out. Why are transitions so damn hard?
Well, I can feel the pain already for you, Mel. Like I can just feel like your whole voice changed. And there's so many people in the same boat. In fact, the world is in transition since COVID. It's a major transition. This is how I think of a transition. Before we even talk about why it happens or why it's so hard, is the way I see transition is somebody wants to go on a journey. Okay. And there's this idea of this dream life, this thing that you want to do. And some are voluntary, some are not. Like your daughter's finishing, it's voluntary transition after college. And she has this whole life ahead of her. And so that's exciting. But then there is the old, right? And the old I see as the shore. And so in transitions, we're like holding on to the shore of what we know, the certainty of the things that we know sort of worked. It's no longer working, by the way, because you want this dream life. And then the boat starts to leave and you're holding on to shore and you're holding on to the boat and you start to get stretched thin. And that's what we start to feel. It's that panic that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's that anxiety. It's that uncertainty that happens. But we're so afraid of discomfort. We avoid discomfort so much that we just continue to hold on. And this is the first thing I want to say to everybody. Let go and start swimming. Let go and start swimming, because there is no ticket to a perfect life, right? That holding on is avoidance. And how many people have we heard that stay in a job they dislike, right? It's like holding on to certainty. I mean, I'm in the major of a transition in my life, in a career, and I'm as scared as you are, but like, if I just hold on to Harvard because that's what makes me good enough, then I'm never going to get to explore the world.
Wait a minute. What's the transition you're in the middle of?
Well, so, for the past year and a half, I really hit a wall at Harvard and Mass General. And I love what I did in terms of research, but I felt like there's so much more that I could do to help so many more people. I wanted to have an impact in the global world in terms of mental health. I wanted to bring that down. And let's be honest, an academic paper is not going to do it, right? It's just not. But I've been terrified to let go of this position and this academic self to jump into this like public speaking, writing books. And I don't have a path for that. And so like when people ask me what I do now, it's like, well, I do a bunch of things. And eventually I'll talk about like the integration of it. But like it is scary in transition. It really is. The first thing we all have to talk about is there's fear there.
For sure. There's fear there. Well, I'm, of course, on the other side of the table from you. And I'm really excited because I see a huge opportunity for you to make a massive impact by spending more of your time in the public realm, sharing your work and helping and impacting millions of people's lives by writing books and doing whatever else you may do. But I want to go and talk about the fact that when you write about transitions, especially here in your new book, you talk about values. Like, what is the intersection of the transitions that we all have to go through in life? whether you're going to move or you're breaking up or you're changing jobs or you're thinking about your dreams or college is ending.
Mm-hmm.
What is the intersection of values and transitions?
So values are so important. And yeah, most of the time when we talk about them, I feel like values are like painting somebody's house. You sort of know they are there, but you don't pay attention to them. So let's define values first, right?
Okay.
Values are intrinsic motivators. They are the things that matter the most to us, the things that should be our compass in life. Family, religion, wealth, integrity. Right. And so what is the intersection between values and transitions? Well, in transitions, our values are questioned. What matters the most to us? Let me give you a personal example to make this come to life for everybody. Yeah. Early on in my career, ambition was the value that mattered the most to me. Okay. And once you have a value, then we set goals with those values. For me, it was getting to graduate school. Then I had to go get into Harvard. Then I was an instructor, so I wanted to be an assistant professor, right? Ambition was the value, and then I set clear goals to those values. Eventually, I got to associate professor. The day I became associate professor, a colleague of mine said to me, so what are you going to do next to become full professor? And that question bothered me. I was like, but do I want to be a full professor? I had driven ambition because, see, ambition got me out of poverty. Ambition got me out of Brazil. Ambition is how I define how I would never go back to be poor again. But no longer ambition was working for me, Mel. I'd lay in bed at night. And I had all the success in Harvard, and yet my brain was just not happy. I couldn't sleep. I put on 40 pounds, right? And I kept saying to myself, what if I just write another grant? What if I just write another paper? You know, I don't have the right to feel the way I do with all the privilege I have. And so ambition no longer was serving me, but I kept going at it. And one day I was sitting in my office writing a grant, and half of my face went numb. Just numb. And the first thought I had is, Lana, this is anxiety. You're unhappy at work. You're writing a grant. This is just anxiety. Next thing you know, half of my body starts to tingling, and I'm terrified. And then the next thing I thought is, oh my God, I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
I'm having a stroke. So I called the nurse. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm an anxiety researcher. I treat anxiety. This is just anxiety. I want to say myself, but like half of my body is numb. And I just end up at the doctor. My husband like drives me. I'm crying. And at that point, I remember going to my primary care Mel and saying to myself, oh my God, I hit rock bottom. Like, this is no longer working. I know what I'm doing is no longer working, but now I'm about to lose everything, right? I avoided for so long, and now I'm having a stroke. And what if I can't speak again? What if everything in my life that I had worked so hard was right in front of me. And I just had this moment of like, holy shit. I've avoided for so long by following this value that no longer served me. Yeah. And just to avoid my transition. That's all I was doing. I was avoiding this transition. And so it turned out that I wasn't having a stroke, thank God. And they think it was a severe migraine. I've never had a migraine in my life. I don't know. The neurologist, it was 48 hours of hell of trying to just look. And that's when I faced reality. That moment was when I paused and was like, I cannot avoid this transition anymore. I'm no longer actually living a value-driven life. I'm living an emotion-driven life. I'm just trying to not feel uncomfortable. So I keep doing the things. And you asked me an important question in the beginning. Why this transition is so hard, right? Why does it hurt so much? Is because it creates so much discomfort. And in that moment, I was just avoiding it. And I couldn't avoid it anymore. And I just hope, and the reason I share this with people is I hope people wake up before they hit that wall, because we hold on to the old so much to not go towards our dreams. And I nearly killed myself in the process. And look at this. And think about how much skills I have. And I still avoided it.
How do you figure out what your values are?
So one of the exercises I use with my patients that I use that day is to actually do the opposite of what anybody does, which is to lean towards the pain. In the days after that nearly stroke, I sat with myself crying early in the morning for many mornings, saying, why does this hurt so much? What about this hurts so much? What is it that is missing? What is in my life missing? And what I realized is pain only exists because behind that pain, there is a value that's extremely important that's being violated. it's not that I didn't care about ambition anymore. Is that what I really cared about is I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world. And I knew that the things I was doing were not aligned with impact. They make impact on the patients that I work for sure, but I saw the world hurting. I saw the rise in anxiety from the CDC of 40% of Americans with clinical level of anxiety and depression. And here I was sitting in my little house with all the skills that my grandmother gave me, that science gave me, and I wasn't doing anything with it. I wanted to create a podcast. I didn't have a podcast. I wanted to write a book. I hadn't written a book. I wanted to go out there and meet people like you, and I wasn't doing it. And when I leaned into that pain, I saw impact, and I was like, wait a minute. I need to change my entire life. I need to change what I do. And so that's my recommendation. Lean towards the pain and ask yourself, why does this hurt? Because somebody is an asshole to you, okay? Right. They say something mean to you. You just say they're an asshole. But if somebody that you love very much says something like, you hurt me tremendously, now it hurts you.
Yeah.
It hurts you because you probably care about that person, because you probably love that person. It's not just that said something mean, it's that it violated a core value.
Wow. So I'm trying to think about the example between kind of the transition that you're describing, which is one that I recently went through, like probably over the last 2 years, of, again, achieved incredible success, but at a cost. And I knew that there was something that I valued more than chasing more success. Mm-hmm. And it was about connection and impact and peace and family and simplicity and artistry. Like it was about, and you can have more than one value, right?
100%. You can have more than value. But slow it down for us, Mel, if you don't mind. Because like, I just love what you're saying, but like, can you just tell me a little bit about the beginning of this transition and like chasing success and no longer feeling like success did it?
Well, yeah, like I think like a lot of people, somewhere along the line, I got the subliminal or subconscious message that achievement equals love.
Yes.
That if you're performing, if you're busy, if you are making a lot of money, if you're winning awards, if you're doing things that people talk about, that means you're worthy of somebody's love and attention.
Yes.
And so having that be a really big motivator, like, you say ambition, I would say if I went a level deeper, it would be love and self-worth.
Yes.
That was a value that I was trying to create in myself. Of course, I wanted to make an impact. Of course, I, wanted to creatively express myself and connect with other people. But my work allowed me to do that. But there was still something that I was pushing up against.
Yeah.
Because what started to happen for me is that once I got to a level of success where I had paid off our debt and I was actively saving money and I could afford to do kind of whatever I wanted to do. I'm not talking Lamborghinis and that kind of crap, but like just had a really great lifestyle and was proud of myself. I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And like you, I felt like an asshole. You didn't use that word, but I'll use that word with myself. I'm like, what kind of an asshole are you? You're sitting here making an impact on millions of people's lives. You are able to stand on stages and share a message that changes people's lives. You are being flown first class all over the place. You can afford to eat anywhere you want. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And what was wrong with me is one of my core values, if I put it into the language of your work, was severely violated.
Yeah.
I was profoundly disconnected from my husband, profoundly disconnected from my kids and even my more extended family because I never saw anybody because I was working. I had exactly 2 friends that I saw. And so I was profoundly lonely.
That's it.
And I was never not working. And so I just was like, something's got to give. And what actually gave is March 8th of 2020.
Yeah.
When my talk show got canceled and all of a sudden the world turned upside down and I found myself like the entire planet found themselves questioning absolutely everything. And what the greatest gift of that massive global transition was for me is it made me really assess what my values truly were. And when my husband and our 3 kids were then under one roof together, it made me realize how much that's all I wanted to do was be with them. And when I started to do my work, not on stages and not by getting on planes, I'm like, you know what, Mel, it's time to stop talking about and thinking about doing a podcast. It's time to get serious about it. Mm-hmm. Yes, you have integrity, so you got to wrap up a lot of obligations to be able to do this the right way. Mm-hmm. And yes, operating with excellence is part of your value. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take some time to launch the way that you're going to want to launch. But that was the moment for me. It was values driven. And I asked you the question about how you figure out your values because it's a surprisingly hard thing to do.
It is so hard. It is so hard. And you actually unpacked so much because, I think the world has gone through a value shift in this pandemic.
How so?
Because the values that worked before the pandemic no longer fit for most people, right? We hear people talking about they want more flexibility in their job. They want to work from home. Why? Because they realized the family mattered and it was being compromised by the way they worked and did their family time. Right? But most people, Mel, haven't had the privilege of what you have of being able to pause and reflect. Right? A lot of people are still in the treadmill of life. That's what I see in my office. People call me and they're still trying to fit their old values to this post-pandemic life. It needs a realignment. And how do you find your values is your question. So I talked about pain. The other way to find values, which I think is what happened to you, is this. Lean into the moments that you feel your best. Okay. What about the moments? What's so important, right? You talked about being with your family. The way you said, my 3 kids and my husband, you lighten up. I could just see you in your living room with them during the pandemic. And if I went behind your brain, I could see just Mel being content, connected, and present.
Yes.
Right? Versus Mel on the stage was impacting a bunch of people. But then you're in that plane and you're craving that connection, that real connection with family. And so in those moments of flow, in those moments of quietness, ask yourself, what matters in this moment? Why is this moment important to me? Why do I feel good? And our values are right there. I know this. I do dinner with my family every day. Okay. And connection and family are 2 of the values for me are super important. So much so that, I came to see you and I'm flying to Miami this week and I'll be gone for my son for 5 days. My husband looked at me and said, you know what? I think we should come with you because you need that connection before you're away from him. It's not going to feel good to be away from him Sunday and Monday and then the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And so pulled them out of school. They came with me. And this morning he said to me, can we stay an extra day? I really like it here. And just that made me feel so connected with him, right? And so those moments allow us to be connected. So in transitions, you need to shift, approach, and align. First, you're going to shift your perspective. Learn to talk to yourself as your best friend. And you're talking about here. Notice the bitch and the fear. Right? I love it. That's shifting the way you're talking to yourself. Right? Second, you want to approach, don't run. In transitions, go towards discomfort. Really lean in on living a comfortable, uncomfortable life. And 3, align. Align values and action. So in the middle of transition, lean into the pain, list your values, and then create action items. And that's what you did actually, Mel, because I see items in this list, they're values, and then you're talking about building your business based on those values. And then go do it. Then go do it. The transition is going to be uncomfortable. There's no transition that doesn't have discomfort, but holding on to the old just keeps you stuck.
I am getting so much out of this conversation, both for my own transitions that will come, but more importantly for where I am right now around supporting other people through transitions. Because as I listen to you talk about the fact that you need to, it wasn't flip. What was it? No, what was the first one? Shift. You have to shift your perspective and your focus. You have to then approach, which is leaning into the pain. That's where you're going to find your values. Yeah. That's where you're going to find the lessons. And then you align your actions with these new values that you identify through the pain of the transition, whether it's a breakup or graduation. And what I'm realizing is that the number of times that I have rushed in to try to save one of my kids from a hard period by fixing it all. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll give you the script. I'll do this. I'll call that person for you. I'm actually robbing them of what happens when you turn toward the thing that you're avoiding and the discomfort and you approach it.
Absolutely. That's beautifully put.
I mean, I just realized that if I try to make it okay for, let's just use the example of my daughter, stepping out of something she loved dearly for 4 years and stepping into the big unknown, if I don't give her the space to feel all of the discomfort, she actually needs that discomfort right now. Mm-hmm. She needs it to discover something within herself.
Yes.
And if I remove it, I am also removing something she needs from her life.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, you're robbing her from a chance of living her best life because and in fact, what we do is we prolong people's pain because eventually it's going to hit. Right? Eventually, she has to go through the discomfort to find her values to live her most meaningful life. And if you're going to feel uncomfortable anyhow, might as well do it right away.
Holy cow. I'm just sitting here going, boy, did I fuck up at times as a parent. Like I really robbed my kids of some of the lessons they needed. And that's why the lessons keep repeating, don't they?
That's why the lessons keep repeating. And you did, Mel, because you love them so much. And I want everybody to hear this is important. Parenthood is hard. None of us are perfect. We're going to mess it up. I have a friend who's a psychologist who has a joke that she says that every time she messes it up, she puts money in the therapy jar. She's like, I know they're going to need therapy. I might as well just put some money there because, I'm the one messing it up sometimes. But that's just parenthood. That's how it goes. But we can actually prevent from doing that by just letting them live their lives and sitting with discomfort and actually modeling it. Like show your daughter this and say, create your own. Right? Create your own.
I love that idea.
Right? Have her take responsibility for it.
Everybody should create one of these. We're going to take a photo of it and link it to the show notes so that you can see what I wrote sobbing 2 years ago about what my North Star was going to be. And it was all because of the pain.
That's all because
that made me bring what do I value? What is worth going through this pain for? And everything on the left-hand side of this Post-it note and everything that'll be on your Post-it note that you value will be worth going through the pain for.
It is. And that's how we get to integration, right? For me, I had this moment that I just wanted to run from Harvard and Mass Gen. I was like, you know what? It's like this small box and it's not aligned with impact. And so I wanted to divorce it. I wanted to avoid it, right? And yet, there's this huge part of me. I'm an academic at heart. I think as an academic. And so I wanted to avoid so bad that I called my boss up and I have this incredible chair in psychiatry. He's amazing. And I said to him, I said, Mauricio, I'm done. This is causing me too much pain. It's too restricted. And I'm sobbing with the chair, sobbing on a Zoom call. And he paused and he says, what is the problem? I said, it's just too small. Everything has bureaucracy and I can't just go do things. And he's like, so what I hear you saying is there's a part of it that you still like. And I said, yeah, I created all this training material for paraprofessionals and I really care about it. It's not like I don't care about training paraprofessionals. In fact, we need more workforce and that's the future. But I wanted to create a podcast. I want to write a book. And so I want to quit. And he's like, what if we just work to eventually decrease your percent effort? You're here a day or two a week. We can discuss what that looks like. And you don't have to give up being associate professor at Harvard. We are proud of you. We wanted to be associate professor, but you also don't want to limit you, Luana. And his ability to hold space, he could have said go. He could have said, no way, you have to stay 100%. He held space. He did for me what I hope you do for your daughter. He let me sit in discomfort and cry with him. And I said to him, I don't know. I came out of the conversation not knowing. And he said, you sit with it and figure it out. And so as I launch this new piece of my life, I'll have the Harvard appointment. I'm going to stay and I'm negotiating with him how small that becomes and what it looks like. But I don't want to give that up.
Why don't we teach a class together?
We totally should teach a class together.
I want to talk to you about 3 simple steps that you can take to create powerful changes in your life. And I'm talking really big changes. Yes, the steps are simple, But simple over time creates amazing results. And simple is important because if it's simple, you can do it. As I already said, these are the 3 steps that led me to launching this podcast. They're the 3 steps that I use to help me start working on my marriage and making my mental health stronger. They're also the 3 steps that help me make the move from a very busy and stressful life outside of Boston, Massachusetts, where my husband Chris and I had raised our family for the last 26 years, and make a major move and a major change to a simpler lifestyle by moving to a tiny town in southern Vermont. Now, using these 3 steps, I not only changed my life, I have reinvented every aspect of my life over the past 2 years. And today, I'm going to share those steps with you. I'm going to tell you the whole story. And I want to help you. I want to inspire and empower you to make the changes that you have been thinking about as you go about your day-to-day life. You know, speaking of life, I think about life as one long road trip. Your past right now is behind you. It's in the rear view mirror. And the future, it's right out that windshield. That's why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror, because we're not going backwards, people. We're not doing that to ourselves. We are going ahead. And you know what's in front of you? An open road. Every single birthday, I believe, is a mile marker on this road trip called life. It's a chance to pull over for a second and think about the open road ahead. Where do you want to go next? How fast do you want to go? How slow? Who do you want to have in the car with you? There's endless metaphors around this, and it helps me think about this major topic of reinvention and change. Now, I love birthdays. I'm sure you do too, and I love them for so many reasons. Because every time you're celebrating a birthday, I mean, think about what you're actually celebrating. We're celebrating the fact that you're still here. We're celebrating your existence, that you're breathing, that you're alive. How cool is that? And you want to know what else we're celebrating when we celebrate your birthday? We're celebrating the possibility and magic that your life and the future and that next year holds for you. Now, there's one part of celebrating your birthday that I want you to really think about, okay? You know that moment when the cake comes out? Your mom or your dad or your spouse or your friends or the waiter, they bring out that cake and the candles are burning on top and everyone starts singing happy birthday to you. And then they put the cake down, you look at the candles, you close your eyes, and you make a wish. And for just a moment, time stops. Have you ever noticed that as that cake gets closer to you and you start going inside and thinking about the wish that you're going to make, you don't even hear anybody singing anymore. You hear something inside yourself. You hear something deep from within. You close your eyes, you grab that wish, and you blow out those candles as if it's going to magically make that wish come true. And when you open your eyes, you are present to the wish. You feel excited for the year, and you can almost see all the new possibility that you could tap into in the year ahead. Well, researchers have a name for this exact moment. It's called the fresh start effect. When you make that birthday wish, you break from your past self, and this transformational window of time opens up. You think bigger. You feel hopeful and inspired. And there's some incredibly interesting research that explains why these moments are so powerful. I'm looking right now at a study from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, where they've studied the intrinsic motivational power of this fresh start effect. Researchers studied moments in our life where we feel motivated to make big changes, and birthdays are an example of that. It's as if a birthday hands you a blank slate, a clean page, a fresh start at a whole new year. And this feeling inside you ignites an intrinsic, motivational, aspirational force that's hardwired within you. It's this power to change. Now, you've experienced this fresh start effect at other times in your life, too. Just think about the new year, January 1st. Hello, fresh start effect. Now, January 1st is one of those moments where all of a sudden, last year ends. Boom, slam the door on that year, and something new opens up. A whole new you. a clean slate, an open road. This is why, by the way, so many people start a diet on January 1st. Hello, Mel Robbins. So many people go to the gym for the first time on January 1st. It gives them a natural mental starting line to cross on a new leg of the journey called life. How cool is that? You also experience this fresh start motivation with every new semester in school, the start of a new sports season. You feel like this could be our year, right? That's the fresh start effect. The birth of a child, a breakup, a wedding, a death. These are all moments in time where something ends and something else begins. And it's not only happening in the physical space, it's happening in the psychological and spiritual space. That's why so much stirs inside you, according to the research. I just realized, this fresh start effect, this is probably why I am addicted to buying new journals. Every time I get a new journal, I crack it open and I literally feel like a new Mel is about to pour out on all those open, empty pages. This phenomenon is so powerful that researchers have even created a label to describe anything that triggers that fresh start motivation that stirs inside you, like your birthday, January 1st, that new journal, a new semester at school. These things are called temporal landmarks. Now, let me explain what a temporal landmark is. A temporal landmark is a date or an experience or a physical thing that marks the passing of time. January 1st, for example, is a date. It marks the end of one year and the beginning of a new year. And when the new year begins, you cross that starting line mentally to think about a whole new you. Your birthday is the exact same thing. It's another year, another mile on the road of your life. And this creates all kinds of new possibilities about the stretch of open road ahead. A new semester is an experience that's always brimming with excitement. New friends, new experiences, a chance to think differently about who you are and how you're going to show up and what you want. A breakup or a divorce. Now, that's a major temporal landmark because it not only marks time, it also impacts your identity, your life as a couple before, and now your life as you after the breakup. But here's what researchers have found that I think is fascinating about what happens to your psychology and motivation and thinking. Temporal landmarks not only mark the passing of time, they open up a whole new mental accounting period. Just like an accountant closes the books at the end of a fiscal year and opens up a fresh page to begin a whole new fiscal year, the event, whether it's January 1, the first of the month, a Monday, the end of a fiscal year, or making a wish on your birthday, this landmark creates a break from the past you. It separates you from the things that you feel are imperfect, and it silences all that judgment that you have about yourself. And here's the cool thing. When you shut that judge inside you down, you open the door to a whole new vision for yourself. It creates a break from your past self, the things that you feel are imperfect about you or your life, and the things that you judge yourself for. And here's what's really amazing. When you stop judging yourself and you stop focusing on what you think is wrong with your life, you open up the floodgates to what might be. So let's go back to that moment when you make a wish on your birthday. As soon as you see that cake coming with those candles burning, you go in. You stop hearing everyone singing. You close your eyes. Why? Because mentally, a new accounting period is opening up. You stop caring about the song and the people around you and what's happening outside of you. You tune into what you're feeling on the inside, in your heart, in your soul, what you dream about, that thing that's calling from you deep inside that normally you can't hear because you're so focused on all the stupid stuff that we all obsess about. No one even has to tell you to close your eyes. You see that cake coming. You know that you can make a wish. You just do it naturally. And when you go inward, you're disrupting the circuitry of your old thinking, your old judgments, and your past habits. For just a moment, you're escaping the old you. And then you make the wish, a wish for what could be, a wish for what will happen this year, in the next year of your life. And the same thing happens when you sit down at the end of the year and you create resolutions, not the one you share with people at a party. I'm talking about the real ones that you write down in your journal. Here's another moment like that. You know that moment after a really painful breakup? This one takes a little bit of time because you basically need to cry and feel bad about yourself for about a month or two, you know. And then one morning, you wake up and you realize, oh my God, I'm happy that's over. I'm better off single. And you let go of the relationship and the version of you who was holding on to it for so long. And more importantly, in that moment of acceptance, you stop judging yourself. And you realize you'll be okay. No, you'll be more than okay. You're going to be great because of this. And then you start to do the work to create a better life. These temporal landmarks are a big psychological deal because something really profound happens inside of you for a second. You snap out of all the stressful bullshit that's going on and the relentless self-criticism, and you have this mental freedom, this temporary break from your normal negative thinking, and you allow yourself to consider the bigger picture. You allow yourself to envision the future you. You tap into your deepest hopes, your wildest dreams, and your most exciting aspirations. You see a vision for a better life. You see that, yes, you deserve to be happy. And that's exactly what I want you and I to experience today on episode 1 of the Mel Robbins podcast. Let's hold each other's hand and sit side by side and imagine what might be possible in the next year of our lives if we let go of the past and we hold on to our dreams. That's the invitation I'm giving to you. Allow yourself to have a fresh start. You don't have to wait for your birthday or January 1st to change your life. You can turn the page on the past and start writing that new chapter today. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to share the 3 simple steps that you can use to create that powerful change that you've been wishing, wanting, or dreaming about. The fact is, change is possible, and you can't convince me otherwise. I know you might try, but I know that it's a fact. Change is possible. It's possible for everyone, and it's possible for you. Now, we're going to talk about this in depth, but the bottom line is, if you can imagine that new chapter, there is a way to make it happen. And I guarantee you, someone else on the planet has done it. I mean, there's about 8 billion people on this planet. Someone else has faced what you're going through right now. Someone else has built the company that you dream about building. Someone else has gone from where you are to where you envision yourself going. Someone else has improved their relationship, healed their mental illness. And if someone else has done it, you can do it too. Start seeing people in the world around you as evidence of your own success being possible. I want you to start saying to yourself, if they can do it, then I can do it. Other people's success just proves that you're worthy of what you want. And more importantly, that you're capable of reverse engineering how they got there and doing the work to get it for yourself. Now, I get it. It might not happen the same way or look the same way. You might not be starting on the same starting line. And it might not take the same amount of time. But if you keep telling yourself, if they can do it, I can do it, you're going to change your mindset. And you're going to see that, yes, it's true. There is limitless success, love, money, and happiness. There's enough for everyone, and there's enough for you. And I want you to use me as an example from time to time. If Mel Robbins can do it, then I can do it. And honestly, I'm going to be looking to you for the same encouragement from time to time, because I'm sure there are things you've accomplished or experienced that I haven't. So let's agree. We're going to encourage one another through this thing, okay? I know how to create massive change because I just did this in my own life. Over the past 2 years, I've completely reinvented myself in every aspect of my life. And look, I'm not being dramatic. It's a fact. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. The Mel Robbins that you're hearing right now is not the Mel Robbins that I was just 2 years ago. 2 years ago to this exact birthday, on the day that I turned 52, I did not wake up and feel like $1 million. I did not see an open road. I saw a dead end. I was not kicking ass and taking names. 2 years ago, when I turned 52, I was sucking wind. I woke up all alone. I felt lost and stuck and scared. Here's what was going on in my life. I had just been fired from my dream job. And look, I'd been fired from other jobs in the past when I was younger, but boy, at 52, that really stings. Then with COVID, the speaking and event business came to a halt. And as a small business owner, I'm responsible for the livelihood and health care of 15 families, including my own. So I started to panic. As the income dried up, I had no idea how I was going to continue to make payroll. And to add to that, I had people in my inner circle that betrayed me. They lied to me, they stole from me. So I just felt rocked because people that I trusted, that I had counted on, had violated that trust. That's what made me feel so damn alone. Plus, then college was canceled. Remember that? So we were all under the same roof with our 3 kids, 2 of whom were in college, and they were all anxious and angry and sad and grieving. I mean, it was like living with caged animals. I bet you felt a lot of these same things. And finally, my husband, Chris, he had just been diagnosed with long-term depression. I mean, talk about a shitstorm. I felt like absolutely everything was spiraling out of control. So here I am on my 52nd birthday with all this going on. And I wake up in the bunk room at my mother-in-law's house where we're quarantining. And I just started crying. The sadness that I had been trying to push down, it just poured out of me. And I instinctually picked up my phone and I just started filming how I felt. I figured someone out there on the internet would relate. And maybe, just maybe, they might even be able to give me some encouragement back. Now, when we come back after a short word from our sponsors, I'm going to play that video that I made on my 52nd birthday. And you're going to hear that sad, lost Mel Robbins. And I want you to hear it because I want you to know I've been there, and I've been there recently. And clearly, if I'm where I'm at now, kicking ass, taking names, going after my dreams, doing better than ever, I know how to bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to go. And later in the episode, I'm going to share those 3 steps with you that I took to make powerful changes and reinvent my whole life so that you can use those same proven, simple steps to make whatever changes you want in the next year of your life. Wait, say that again.
Learning how to change means developing a different relationship with commitment. You can't have an all or nothing relationship with commitment. It can't be, I was good, I was committed, and I followed through, and I was good, or I broke my commitment and I was bad. So, that mindset, you're screwed.
So what do you do with that person who says, okay, we're going to do the 30 days of not drinking, and I'm going to try the tools. And day 8 rolls around, and it's a beautiful sunset. Or it's a really bad day at work. Or you get really, really horrible news. The last time I wasn't drinking, I got news that a friend of ours died. And I was like, fuck this shit. I'm having a cocktail. So if I were doing the 30 days with you, what is the data? Like, what can I learn from that day where I didn't keep my commitment to myself?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a process, right, that I have people go through to actually look back and understand what was happening in the moment, right? Like when you were saying, fuck this shit, what was going on? What were you saying, fuck this shit to?
Life being hard, commitment being hard, sticking to my 30-day promise being hard. Probably if I go a little, that's at the surface. If I go a little bit deeper, it was being really pissed off and really sad that my friend had died and wanting to just like numb it out, like not have to feel anything, and sticking to a commitment or or changing, like developing those new neural paths. That's hard work. And so I did not want to have to work hard at like sticking to a promise when all I wanted to do was fucking have a drink and lay down on the couch and cry about my friend.
Yeah. I mean, so all of a sudden we get to see it like through the lens of like, oh, it was sadness. It was grief. It was the belief that like this emotion is too big, it's too much. I can't handle it. I don't want to be with it. I shouldn't have to be with it. Which also so normal.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, of course your brain went to the thing that it's like, I know how we get out. Like, I know the shortcut. Here's the shortcut to not have to feel our emotions. We have the drink.
That's the lower brain, right?
Yep.
That's the lower brain going, I recognize this pattern.
Right. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, this wasn't me breaking my commitment and being bad. This was me in the moment of having all of this pain and sadness bubble up, not feeling like I had an alternative for how to manage it or handle it.
How does recognizing that help you have a stronger muscle when it comes to commitment? Well, you know, because you're right, because I'm sitting here going, I totally agree with you. All or nothing when it comes to commitment. You're either good or you're bad. You either have integrity or you don't. You either stick to your promises or you're a fuck up and you never will. Like, you know, like that kind of thinking. And if I take on a 30-day challenge and I fuck it up on day 12, then I fucked up the whole thing.
Right. But remember, what did I say the goal of the challenge was?
It's not to not drink for 30 days?
No, I know. It's like,
isn't it to not drink?
It's not drinking, right? We said not drinking. It's not drinking.
The goal was to use the tools.
Use the tools.
But I didn't lose the tools, so I actually didn't do the challenge. See how quick I am to like go bad, Mel.
Okay, so now we don't. So like this happens on day 2. So day 3, we can't go back to using the tools.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. And we just make progress so much faster, right? When we're not, it's kind of like, oh, well, I tried and that didn't work. Now it was bad. Now I'm going to go into a shame spiral. And I'm either just going to like stop trying, right? Because it's like, see, nothing works. Right. And I'm just going to like give up. Or like, I would either go into the like, okay, nothing works. Let's just like, F it. I just have permission to like drink and eat and like do all the things that I want to do. Or I would go into the place of like, okay, now we're going to make like this super crazy restrictive rule because I was so bad. But like deep down, I know I can't follow it at all.
People do that on diets nonstop.
Yeah.
I see such a direct parallel with the way we are all around eating.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to my breakthrough just a couple minutes ago, because I'm starting to see that if you take on a 30-day challenge like this to use the tools and to use the tools to not drink for 30 days as a way to learn and develop the muscle of commitment and understanding yourself better. If you screw up on day 2 or 12 or 28, and then you bash yourself for not having a perfect streak, the likelihood is I would then just bail on the challenge altogether, because the amount of shame I would throw at myself and the conflict I would feel would be so much that I'd want to turn it off by having a drink.
Yeah. Except what if it wasn't a screw up? Like, what if you didn't make a mistake? And I don't mean, I mean, like, what if the decision to say yes to the drink wasn't a mistake? It wasn't a screw up.
Well, how could it not be if I am making a commitment?
Because maybe it's trying to give you insight into something that you are missing, like a skill that you don't have, or a response that you don't have to an excuse, or something that you're, like you're not aware of. Like maybe you don't have the awareness, so I'm using it as a boundary. And maybe it's that moment where you're like, okay, I tried and then it didn't work and I said yes. And then when you go back and look, it's like, oh, like we can't get awareness just by being perfect. I think that's the misconception.
Ooh. You're right, you can't. And I just had another insight. The more I talk to you, the deeper we're going. Here's my big insight. I don't know if we have enough time to talk about this one. I realized that I hate being told what to do.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Even by myself. Like it's like this rebel thing. You're not going to tell me what to do. Even if I said I want to do this thing, I'm not going to do that thing that I said that I would do. I'll show you. Is that a normal thing that you hear with people?
Yes, this is a huge thing. I often talk to people when they're really struggling. It's like, okay, so what is the language that you're using to say no to the drink? And they're like, well, I'm just saying that I can't have a drink. Okay, when you tell yourself you can't have a drink, how does that make you feel? Pissed off.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It's not even true that you can't have a drink.
Explain that.
You're like, but we said we can't. Well, I mean, you're an adult woman. We're living in a country where alcohol is accessible. You have money. Arguably, like, you have an app. Maybe it will deliver. You have a car. Like, of course you can drink. You're choosing to say no. Like, there's such a, like, this is, probably because my father was an English teacher. And so he's always like hounding the importance of words.
Yeah.
But there's such a big difference between, like, when I tell myself I can't have something versus, okay, I'm choosing not to, and here's why. It still might feel a little uncomfortable for me, but I'm not pissed. I'm not seeking to rebel.
Have you ever had something random happen in your life that is so incredible? It gives you goosebumps. You cannot explain it, but this is not just a coincidence. This was meant to happen. Like that moment when you're thinking about somebody and then suddenly they call you or text you? Strange. Or have you ever found a $20 bill in a parking lot and you needed it because you forgot your wallet at home? Or how about this one? I love it when this happens. You sit down next to a stranger on a train or an airplane and you end up discovering some magical connection. Holy cow. They work at the company where you're about to interview for your dream job. I mean, talk about meant to be. Or you move into a brand new apartment and you look out the window and there's like a bazillion hummingbirds and you know this is the right apartment for you because your grandmother died several years ago and she always said she was going to come back as a hummingbird. And there she is as a sign. Goosebumps. Or how about a moment? I had a moment like this once where I was in a children's hospital with our son, Oakley. He was 6 days old, and he was about to be wheeled into emergency surgery. And I looked up, and there on the wall was a Winnie the Pooh mural. My husband's name is Christopher Robbins. I got goosebumps, and I knew he'd be okay. Or maybe you've had a goosebump moment that was really profound. And you come back to it over and over again. Like the time you were too sick to go to that party, which meant you weren't in that car that crashed on the way home. What I'm talking about are moments that feel like they were meant to happen. You might not be able to explain them, but you just know it was meant to be. It gives you goosebumps. It's like a little wink from the universe or God or whatever you believe in, that there is, in fact, this positive force that has your back. Well, what if I told you you could learn how to encounter more of these right time at the right place type of moments in your life? In fact, my guest today believes that every human being, yes, you, has a superpower. And that superpower is that you can learn how to create more magic, more moments that give you goosebumps. In fact, there's a word for these moments that can't be explained: synchronicity. We're going to talk about the topic of synchronicity today, what synchronicity is, and how to create more synchronicity in your life. And you want to stick around for this because there is more than meets the eye in this conversation. This is the intersection of psychology, quantum physics, and spirituality. In fact, this year's Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded to 3 physicists for their work in researching how particles that are light years apart still influence one another. And our expert today is going to convince you that you thinking about a friend is what influences your friend to call you out of the blue. you can learn to have your internal thoughts influence your external reality, and we're going to be bringing simple takeaways and the science to prove it to you. I am so excited to introduce you to Dr. Tom Myers, who is an expert on synchronicity. His entire PhD dissertation was on the subject of synchronicity. He's been a professor and researcher for years, and today he is going to teach you everything that you need to know. Dr. Myers is going to break this topic down step by step so that you not only understand it, but more importantly, you can start to tap into the power and magic of synchronicity in your life, because he believes and knows that everybody, including you, has this superpower. And today, he's going to teach you how to tap into it. Dr. Myers, thank you so much for being here.
Great. Nice to be here, Mel.
So, can we just start with the basics? I realize you got a PhD in this, but I want to start at the kindergarten level. What is synchronicity?
Yeah, synchronicity is that point where you have a holy crap, holy shit moment, right? Like, how the heck could this have ever happened? This is happening to me. How do I meet someone on the other side of the world who just happens to be my neighbor, and we're at the same place at the same time? And probably never in a lifetime could I have ever made this happen again, or not me made this happen, but it's happened again. And so it is a moment where you step back like, wait a minute, what just happened? How am I here at this place at this time when this is happening in a way that is coming together, and it's communicating a way that, wow, it's beyond me. It's created goosebumps. It's created this feeling of, wow, there's something out there.
What I find fascinating about your research and the workshops you teach around the world on synchronicity is that you believe that absolutely every human being, there are now 8 billion of us, that we have a superpower and that we can tap into those holy shit moments more in our life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find fascinating about this, because this could easily be dismissed, oh, that's a holy shit moment, oh, that's woo-woo, I'm not listening to this, is that there's hard science about synchronicity. That in your research, Carl Jung started looking into synchronicities way back in the day. Then physicists got involved. I find it fascinating that last year, the Nobel Prize in Physics, people, was given to somebody who studied quantum entanglement, which is basically about synchronicity and how particles light years away can impact one another, that there are these connections that we can't see. You're basically teaching people around the world that you, using principles of physics and synchronicity, which has been researched for almost a century, that you can teach yourself how to get intentional about your thoughts and your hopes and your dreams. Yeah. And once you start to get intentional about your thoughts and your hopes and your dreams, you can train yourself to start to spot signs in the outside world that match your internal thoughts, hopes, and dreams.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So, yeah, and I'm not a physicist. My focus is on the psychological side. I had to have the physics aspect to explain it, as Carl Jung needed to have that before he went forth with his theory. My focus is how do we become aware of the synchronicities and these events and these things coming together in time. How do we become aware of that, and how do we take advantage of it? That helps to confirm we're on the right path.
Super cool. So Tom, what are the 3 ways that you know you're having a holy shit, this is synchronicity moment?
Yeah. Well, things come up from out of the blue.
Okay.
It's as Jung called it, acausal, meaning it was nothing that you put into action.
Okay.
So an example of, hey, I'm going to call my buddy or I text them and they get back to me. Like, oh my gosh, like you got back. Well, dude, you just sent me a message. I'm counting, right? But if I am now thinking, acausally, it comes out of the blue, I am thinking about my friend. And just as I'm thinking about my friend, I look down at my phone and there's his text, or he calls me, or I run into him in the grocery store. It's like, whoa, that's a holy crap moment, right?
Got it.
Second part of synchronicity, it is meaningful. It has an impactful meaning to you. It may not be to anyone else, but personally, this circumstance, this coming together in time is meaningful.
Got it. Okay.
And it's at the right time. It's like, I needed this today. This is the exact information that has come to me today, in this moment, in this second. This is exactly what I needed.
Got it. So it's a holy cow moment. If it's out of the blue, it has meaning that creates the holy shit. And then the timing is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So Dr. Myers, can you tell me the difference between a coincidence and a synchronicity?
Yeah, so a coincidence can be a one-off, happen chance. Yeah, coincidence. I just ran into this person. Okay, great. But did it have a feeling of something deeper, meaningful, that almost a spiritual feel to it? Like, how in the heck could this have ever happened at this right place at the right time?
So a coincidence you can explain away, but a synchronicity has something more magical that you can't put your finger on?
Yeah, here's an example of a coincidence
Okay.
for me, okay? So I'm mowing my lawn, and lo and behold, a blue balloon just happens to float down and land on me.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm thinking, okay, what's the meaning of this? What is this about? Is there something there? Is there a synchronicity moment that I'm going to be able, I thought it was weird, to be way out in the country and this blue balloon happen chance just kind of float over and land on me, right? But I thought about it. It's like, no, it was just a freaky coincidence. There's probably a birthday party down the road and it blew over and it landed on me. I can't read into this any more than that. That's it. It's a coincidence.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, though?
Yes.
But if you were the kind of person whose father loved blue balloons,
Right.
and that blue balloon had incredible meaning for you, and maybe it was even like your dad's birthday today, if that had happened and the blue balloon came down, landed on you on your dad's birthday, he's died, it was his favorite color, he loved balloons, that could be a
Yes,
synchronicity.
Absolutely. All of a sudden there's a sign.
Okay.
Because these events have all come together in time. The birthday, dad's death, loves blue, it means something to me.
Got it. So it's more like that it elicits some sort of wonder or goosebumps or sense that this is happening for a reason. There's a message in this. Yeah. Got it. Do you have an example in your own life of another synchronicity moment?
Yeah. Probably my very existence, and I'll explain it. It's a synchronicity moment.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to 1990, 91. And in my former life, I was a ski racing coach. So in the summertime, we would go to Europe and we would train on the glaciers, ski, setting courses and training our athletes in the glaciers of Switzerland.
Okay.
I meet this other coach from Massachusetts. I'm in Vermont. We start riding up the T-bar and we become friends. We're talking, oh, this is great. Let's work together on some stuff. Tell me about your life and your parents. He goes, well, yeah, my mom lives in New York, and my dad unfortunately was killed in a glider accident, a sailplane glider accident, right? Very rare. I said, wait a minute. I know this story. I will finish. So all of a sudden I said, did this happen? Was this the accident that happened in Warren, Vermont? And the poor guy was like, yeah, I had never even heard that story before, how my dad died. So I kind of explained a little bit there. So how do you know this? Well, just happens my father and his father were best friends.
What?
Yeah. My dad was a ski patrol at Snow Ridge in Turin, New York, and his dad, Roger, was a ski instructor. And they were best buddies, right? So here we are skiing in Switzerland together. My dad and his dad are best friends skiing together in the late 50s, right? Wow, this is mind-blowing. Oh my God, how can this happen, right? It gets better.
It gets better?
And Roger introduced my dad to my mom who was visiting, right? So I think, oh my God, without Roger making that introduction, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in this life form as we're today.
Wow. I have a crazy story like that. So when I was a sophomore at Dartmouth, I had been in a relationship for over a year with this amazing, amazing guy. His name is Howie, and just absolutely loved him. I really regret that he met me when I was a complete disaster. So again, thank you, Howie, for all your forgiveness. I had not yet discovered like that I had trauma, and I was not diagnosed with anxiety yet. And so he got the worst of Mel Schneeberger, which was my maiden name. But anyway, in the winter of that year, his dad died very tragically. And because his father had died very tragically, there was a bunch of issues financially. And it came into question whether or not Hal and his sister were going to be able to stay in college. And I'll never forget that summer, we were walking across campus because sophomore year at Dartmouth, everybody stays on campus for sophomore summer. And somebody came running out to meet us and said, How, the dean wants to talk to you. And it turns out that an anonymous benefactor had come forward and was paying his tuition and housing and his sister's tuition and housing. So fast forward, that would have been 1988. Fast forward, it's now probably 1995. Howe and I broke up, go on totally different directions. I meet my now husband, Christopher Robbins, and his best friend is visiting from town. His best friend is visiting. And so his best friend is named Ramey, and he's now Kendall's godfather, just incredible friend of ours. And he invites us to come out to his parents' house in Princeton, New Jersey for the weekend. And so we're sitting there at Ramey's parents' house, and I'm meeting my husband's, like, one of his best friends from high school. And we're talking, and, oh, you went to Dartmouth? Oh, do you know how? And I'm like, do I know him? I freaking dated him for... And so all of a sudden, Ramey's mom nudges the dad and says, I think you should tell her. It was Ramey's parents who had been the anonymous donors because Ramey's father and Howe's father had worked together at Bristol Myers Squibb when they both lived in Evansville, Indiana. And so all the stars came, and I started obviously sobbing, and so did they. And, you know, that was this incredible, just divine moment in my life.
Wow. Yeah. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story that you have. It's just, I mean, you know, again, this, as you said, that divine peace, there is something there. There's a huge universe that communicates through people and through relationships and through signs, symbols, dreams that is communicating to us. And it kind of has this feeling of, oh my gosh, we're connected to it. So, coincidence?
Absolutely not. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.